These are the new metal releases for May 1st, 2026. This might not be the biggest weekend for new music. I know some of the last few weekends in April were stacked. I only have one band that I was familiar with, but I also discovered some new bands I had never heard before. This episode is going to be a little shorter than usual. I only have 6 albums to talk about, but what I have is pretty good, so let's get into it. First one's going to be one that most of you know. It's a new album by Venom called Into Oblivion. I don't really need to go into a big history with them. Most of you know the band has been around for a long time. They formed in 1979. They released some very controversial albums in the early 80s. Some say they are the pioneers of black metal, but to me it sounds more like traditional heavy metal, just with some very dark themes. I'll be honest with you, I've never listened to albums in full. I've heard a few songs here and there. And the fact that I've never listened to them is kind of interesting because one of the first songs that I listened to was the first single, Lay Down Your Soul. And that song gave me this big sense of deja vu, as if I had heard it before. Although I'd never heard it before, I didn't listen to the single, but I looked it up. I wanted to see if it was a re-recording, but apparently it's a new song. I don't know, for some reason it just felt like familiar to me. I don't know why. But it might be because the way that he made the music, he made it sound like the music they were making in the 80s. That could be. But anyway, apart from that, the music is not too bad. Opening track Into Oblivion was pretty cool. I liked the guitar riffs in that song. There were some harmonized guitars, gave me some Iron Maiden and Judas Priest vibes. There were some other pretty cool songs. For example, the song Nevermore had a pretty cool galloping rhythms. The song Man and Beast had some cool chugging rhythms. Overall, it's a pretty good album. I think they are just making these dark and evil heavy metal songs. They're not complex at all. They sound like retro heavy metal. The song structures are actually kind of simple, but that's not bad. It's a fun album. I'll give this one 7.5 out of 10. I'm not really into this band, but I might give it another chance. Next is Mad Butcher's Flesh and Blood. This is a long-lost unreleased album from the German heavy/speed metal band recorded in late 1988 after they parted ways with Metal Enterprise Records. Band formed in Essen around 1981. The band pioneered the scene with prior releases like Metal Lightning Attack from 1985 and Metal Meat from 1987. And they shared stages with acts like Sodom, Halloween, Slayer, and Exodus. As for this album's release, the master tapes were thought to be lost forever, but a flawed copy was recovered, it was restored, and released on vinyl by Lost Realm Records in early 2026. It was a limited collector's edition with new artwork, and now the full album stream was just released on May 1st. It pretty much sounds exactly like you would expect. It's speed metal, sounds like it was recorded in the 80s. Vocals are a little different for this type of band. They kind of sound like vocals from a British punk rock band in the 70s. There are some pretty good tracks. I like the song called Run For Your Life. Has some melodic lead guitar playing. There was another pretty cool song called Ride the Hurricane. Had a slow and dark intro and demonic voices, and those demonic voices could be heard throughout most of the song. Overall, not too bad. Nothing I'm going to be going back to very often, but I thought it's a decent speed metal album. I give it 7 out of 10. Spell's Wretched Heart is the Vancouver heavy metal band's 5th studio album, released May 1st, 2026 via Bad Omen Records. The band plays a combination of hard rock and heavy metal, but there are times they can sound a little gothic. They also incorporate some psychedelic rock, and it can sound theatrical at times. To be honest with you, they remind me a lot of the band Ghost. And I make that comparison because the vocalist sounds very similar to Tobias Forge. So the opening track, Dark Inertia, sounds like a typical heavy metal. It's very melodic, filled with classic guitar riffs. Next track, Lilac, has some haunting keyboards. It really sets the tone in the intro, and that song gave me some more 80s arena rock vibes. After that was the song Take My Life, which sounded like 80s hair metal, but with a slightly darker tone. There was also some pretty cool 80s horror movie synth on the track Oubliette. Next track, Iron Teeth, also has some pretty cool synth combined with some heavy metal riffs. That was possibly the heaviest song on the album. Then there was Exquisite Corpse, which was probably the most ghost track on the album. It was very haunting, creepy, and melodic with lots of memorable hooks. Overall, maybe my favorite album of the week. I will give it this one 8.5 out of 10. It's not hard to make the Ghost comparison, but they make some pretty good music. The Profound Darkness is the fifth studio album by Australian thrash band In Malice's wake. Released on May 1st, 2026. It's a 9-song conceptually dark record about death and the unknown beyond the grave. It was my first time listening to the band. The tone is very dark. The sound is probably closer to death metal, even though they are listed as a thrash band. Opening track of The Profound Darkness sets the scene with some dark and heavy guitar riffs. Next track, Beyond Death, was very fast and aggressive and sounded a lot like old school death metal with lots of tremolo picked guitar riffs. The vocals are very aggressive and reminded me of bands like Enforced or Power Trip. This was By Tongues of Demons. This was another very fast and heavy and aggressive track. It gave me some Slayer vibes, but if Slayer turned up the aggression and just turned up everything a notch. Track 4 is called The Last Song, which is not really the last song because there are 6 more songs on the album, but it's some more speed and aggression. Then on track number 5, they slow it down a little, and the song is called Numb to Paradise. I like that one a lot. It has those chunky Stormtroopers of Death style guitar riffs. Overall, not too bad. A very aggressive metal album. My final score will be 8 out of 10. God's Acres, Rife with Flesh, Adorned is the third full-length album by Swedish death metal band Creeping Flesh. Released on May 1st, 2026. This is a 10-track record built around old-school death metal, influenced by bands like Wolf Thrower, Asphyx, and Hail of Bullets. The band plays some crushing, war-themed death metal. They blend the Swedish heaviness with a more melodic sound. It's for fans of classic European death metal with modern production. Opens with a classic acoustic instrumental called A Portent of Defeat. It's followed by 5 Yards Apart, which sounds like you just walked into a battlefield with crushing guitar riffs. They sound like gunfire and deep guttural vocals. That was actually the clip I played in the beginning, and it was a live version. Then after that, they slow it down into some Death Doom territory with Upon the Altar of Peace, and that's a track that gets pretty melodic. They continue with the Death Doom with Through the Reddening Turf, which plays some slow and heavy riffs that gave me some Paradise Lost vibes. But by track number 6, they pick up the speed again with They Died Facing Forward, which was one of the more aggressive tracks on the album. Overall, not too bad. If you like that war-themed death metal, I think you should check it out. For me, it will be an 8 out of 10, but I think it could go up if I spent some more time with it. I have one more album, that is The Harvest, the 5th full-length album by Los Angeles extreme metal band Ashen Horde, released on May 1st, 2026. I've never listened to the band before, but apparently they used to be just a black metal band, but with this album they expanded their sound to a progressive black/death/thrash hybrid. In other words, the album blends black metal riffs with clean vocals, progressive structures, and this technical thrash and death sound. Some comparisons would be bands like Opeth, Atheist, or the later albums by Death. The album is 8 tracks, it's 43 minutes long. Opening track is called Autumnal, which has an atmospheric black metal sound with guitars mixed up front and the drums lower in the mix. Vocals were traditional black metal vocals. They incorporated clean vocals as the song progressed, and they kind of went back and forth between the vocal styles. Then the next track, Entropy and Ecstasy, that was the clip I played in the beginning, by the way. It sounded more like some tech death with some very complex guitar riffs and a combination of black metal with death metal vocals mixed with the clean vocals. The next song, Backward Momentum, also gave me some tech death vibes and was a pretty cool song. Further down the track list was a song, A Place in the Rot, which I liked, maybe because it was the most melodic song on the album. It reminded me of classic Opeth and maybe a little bit of Carcass. And there was also lots of other good songs, but in general, it's a very good album. I would say tied for my favorite of the week, so I give this one 8.5 out of 10. So that's all. Check out last week's episode. Please like this video. It helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Please subscribe if you have not already. I do rock and metal reviews, rankings, and more. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.